where there's been overall optimism around the Kenyan economy of late. Yesterday, we had Prime Minister Raila Odinga kick-starting the 6th Prime Minister's Roundtable with the private sector. Any interesting developments that have emerged on that front? Just how keenly are the markets looking towards that roundtable session?
Good morning, Alicia. Thank you for having me. We've had that meeting which the Prime Minister hosted a number of professionals in the private sector. I think what is key to note here is that no major resolutions were made as such. Maybe we'll have to wait for something official later on, but I understand a number of key things were discussed, and looking at where we've come from also, we had a lot of credit squeezed in this sector when we suffered the economic crisis, and we also had the post-election violence in Kenya. And now coming to this year, we've seen a market recovery, we've seen an economic recovery, and it's in this sector where we find most wealth creation. And I think it's a good initiative by the government to try and mesh the success of this with other government activities. We've also had other groups, and I think it's something to keep your eye on looking forward in 2011.
In the meantime, in this context, we've had the executive director of Kestrel Capital being quoted concurring that the NSE is expensive relative to peer frontier markets, but adding that interest by foreign investors is likely to remain high due to Kenya's strong macroeconomic fundamentals as they stand right now. What's your view on current valuations relative to fundamentals?
Okay, would that be valuation of the stock market?
Yes.
Would that be valuation of the economy or in the stock market? Then I would say the market is on an upward path. I think we are expecting to see even better. If you even look at the indicators of the market, they have been on a steady rise. We look at the indexes, and if you also look at most of the stocks that are moving large volumes and that they're moving in activity, these are stocks that find themselves in sectors that are really growing. You mentioned earlier we have manufacturing, agriculture, and also construction being the major winners in the economy. But I would still have a word of caution and say some stocks may be overpriced, and I think we might have to caution against perhaps an overvaluation of some of these stocks.
To what extent are undercurrents like Kenya's Higher Education Minister William Ruto standing trial over a scam in which the state firm was defrauded through the sale of forest land getting attention? Or is there just too much good news at this stage overshadowing developments like those?
Well, I think, yes, the good news may overshadow something like that. And I think we see the due process of the law is underway. So as far as that goes, I think it's being dealt with, so to speak. And I think it should not be something to worry us as Kenyans, unless something which goes against the basic rule of law takes place, which I doubt. So I think it's better just to sit back and see how it plays itself out.
Well, in this context, we've got Nation Media Group, the parent company of Monitor Publications, starting trade on the Ugandan Securities Exchange this morning. What do you see this doing for the profile of the company moving forward?
I see a lot of positive prospects for the company. We look at the industry it finds itself in. It's one of the most growing, one of the most robust in terms of demand. We have the media, advertising, print and press industry really doing well, and there's a lot of increased demand for their services. And looking at the company in question, the Nation Media Group, they did quite well in their financial year. They are actually looking for more capital. Any cross-listing is a way of venturing out and getting more exposure, not only in Kenya but regionally. So I think we should see the actual fruition of these prospects come 2011.
Just a quick word on who you see being the key investors in a player like this, because we've heard that it would be limited to high net worth retail and institutional investors.
Well, I don't know how true that is, depending on what price they have the offering at. I think there's been some discrepancy. Some people say it will be offered at this current market value of the stocks here in Kenya. And I also saw some articles mention it would be offered at a different price. But in any case, I think it should not lock out anyone from investing. I think 2 shillings 50 cents was the the quoted price. I think that is pretty affordable to anybody wishing to invest. So I wouldn't say it's locked to a certain class of people.